Today I want to talk about the growth of a Christian. This is what we would like. We want to be that giant oak tree. But we start out our life as a Christian as just a small little tiny acorn. That is where we start out at. We would love to be perfect. We would love to be exactly like Jesus. Live exactly like He did. Think perfect thoughts. Speak perfect words. Do perfect things. Just everything about our life is perfect. Well, when we get in church, we start living for God, we turn our life over to Him, we're just like a baby Christian. We're just a little small acorn that's just starting out its growth. It's just been planted in the ground. It's going to take years for you, and you will never be completely perfect. You will never have a mind that is 100% always perfect. You will never be 100% of your words are perfect, or 100% of your actions are perfect. Everything about your life is perfection. But the word perfect, it means to mature. It means to be constantly growing. It means to constantly be becoming more and more like Jesus. There may be a day, years from now, you may be almost 100% where you do everything right, or I'm sure there's some people that thinks they are always 100% right. But know that it's a process. And know that just as a baby that starts out, a baby that comes out of the womb is just a little small child. That child is perfect. If it's healthy, everything about it's okay. That child can't eat. That child, it can't feed itself. It'll use the bathroom on itself. It'll make all kind of mistakes. It can't walk. There's a lot of things a child can't do, but you would still say that it was a perfect child. Everything about it is normal. And as it grows, you would expect it to walk. You would expect it to run. You would expect it to make progress. And the child will begin to feed itself. It'll begin to think for themselves. They'll begin to do things for themselves. As they grow older, they'll begin to drive, and they'll get out, get a job. And it's just a maturing process. That same child, all along that process, the things they're doing you would consider normal. As they begin to walk, they stumble, they fall, they're not perfect as far as they didn't start walking the first time they got up. You stand your baby up and you say, okay, they're going to walk, everything about them's perfect. And then boom, they fall, they hit the floor. You don't say, well, we tried that. I guess something wrong with this one. We might as well trade this one in. I don't know. I guess they'll never be able to walk. But that's the way it is in our life, though. If we was like that child, if we just gave up on that child the first time it tried, just get frustrated and threw our hands up. But, the way we are in our own selves, we get so aggravated and so mad. We do something and we'll say, well, I'm not perfect. Well, you might be perfect as far as you are maturing. You're not what you used to be. If you can look back on your life weeks ago and months ago and years ago, you may not be hitting the perfect model of exactly like Jesus, but you're not what you used to be. You're somewhere along the path. You're somewhere from an acorn to a tree that's growing up into a huge tree, just a great big oak tree. You're somewhere along that process. You're growing. Always be growing. Always be maturing. That is what God wants us to do. It would be great if we were perfect. It would be awesome if we were perfect. That is what we're striving for. We want to be like Jesus Christ. We want to be a perfect representation of Him in this earth. But don't be aggravated and mad at yourself. As you read in the Word, and as you hear a preacher preach, and you see things in your life, there's two things that could happen. You could be condemned. You could receive that Word, and you feel so bad, and you feel so guilty, and you feel so ashamed that you're not going to make any progress. If you have that guilt and that condemnation and that shame from hearing the Word, it's not going to cause you to make a change in your life. You're just going to feel so bad and so ashamed, and you might even give up. You may say, well, I hadn't went from this to this in a year's time, or I hadn't went from this to this in 6 months' time, or 5 years' time. Whatever it is, the process. Don't give up on yourself. Don't be guilty and condemned. If you sin, go to God. Confess that sin to Him. Turn it over to Him. But what we need to do is when we read something in the Word that we're doing wrong, or we hear a preacher preach something that we're doing wrong, we don't need to feel guilty and condemned, but we need to feel convicted. We need to be convinced, to think the way God thinks about that. Whatever that is in our life that we're doing, we have received that Word, and it hadn't made us feel condemned and pressed down and just so ashamed, but it's convicted our heart, and it's made us say, I want to make a change. I want to be different. I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm not doing everything the way I want to and the way God expects me to. But I'm going to receive this word and I'm going to make this change in my life. And today I want to encourage you, wherever you're at on the process, be always growing. Be always maturing. Be always learning to walk. Be always learning to run. Be learning to feed yourself. Be learning to go out and take care of yourself. Just like a person does in their natural growth. Be that way in your relationship with God. Don't get mad at yourself. Don't give up on yourself. If you've stumbled and you fail, jump back up. Get back up on your feet and take off on your journey again. And know that you're just on the process and you're just on the growth of a Christian life.